control. Have you ever felt that sudden sting in your chest when someone you cared about stops trying, stops calling, stops making you feel seen? One day his words lit up your phone, control, and the next there's silence. It feels like the floor has been pulled out from under you, doesn't it? You wonder what changed. Was it you? Did you do something wrong? Control. The pain feels heavy because it's not just about him, it's about what his absence whispers to you in the quiet moments. It tells you that maybe you weren't enough, control, that maybe love was never real, and those thoughts can feel unbearable. But I want you to hear me now. You are not alone in this, control. Every single person who has loved deeply has felt the cold distance of someone pulling away. It doesn't mean you are unworthy. It doesn't mean you are broken, control. It means you are human, and humans crave connection like we crave air. Science tells us that our brains are wired to bond. When someone withdraws, control, it sets off alarms in our nervous system. That's why your heart races, why your thoughts spiral, why you feel that emptiness in your chest. It's biology, not failure, control. And once you understand that, you can take your power back. This moment, as painful as it feels, is not the end of your story. It's a crossroads, control. You can choose to spiral into self-blame, or you can choose something far greater. You can use this moment as the beginning of a transformation, control. The reason you should stay with me is because what feels like rejection right now can become the very fire that awakens your true strength, control. The pain you feel can teach you how to rise higher than you ever imagined, control. It can show you how to build a love for yourself so deep that no one's absence can ever shake you again. Imagine, just for a moment, a life where you no longer chase anyone, control, where you no longer beg for someone's attention because you've discovered that you are already whole. Imagine the freedom of waking up each day confident, radiant, control, magnetic, not because someone is chasing you, but because you've learned to chase your own dreams and joy. That is possible for you, control. It doesn't matter how many times you've been let down. It doesn't matter how quiet his phone has become. What matters is what you do with this moment. Stay with me, control, because in the next few minutes, you're going to discover how to turn this pain into power, how to respond with grace instead of fear, control, and how to create a love life that feels safe, passionate, and lasting, control. You're going to see why you never need to lose yourself chasing someone again and how to prevent this heartbreak from repeating. You don't have to feel powerless anymore, control. The silence you hear right now is not the end. It's the space where you get to rebuild yourself. And when you rise from this, control, you won't just get someone to chase you again. You'll create a life where the right love runs toward you without fear. Keep listening, control, because everything is about to change. You've been told a lie that love should always feel effortless, that if someone stops chasing you, it means you've failed, control. But the truth is far more complex, and understanding it can set you free. Attraction is not a straight line. It's a dance of energy, timing, and emotional connection, control. When someone pulls back, it doesn't automatically mean you aren't lovable. Many times it reflects what's happening inside of them. Fears they haven't faced, control. Wounds they haven't healed, or even the natural fading of excitement that happens when a relationship moves from fantasy into reality. This is human nature, control, not a verdict on your worth. Our minds are wired to catastrophize when someone withdraws. We replay every conversation, dissect every text, searching for what we did wrong, control. But here is the liberating truth. It's not always about you. Often, it's about the silent battles they fight that have nothing to do with you at all, control. Some people chase because they love the thrill of pursuit, not because they are ready to love fully, control. Others pull back because real intimacy awakens fears of rejection or inadequacy within themselves. And sometimes life circumstances simply shift priorities, control. Understanding this doesn't erase the pain, but it helps you see that their actions do not define your value, control. What matters now is shifting the lens from, why am I not enough, to, what is this moment teaching me? Pain is a powerful teacher when you listen to it without judgment, control. It teaches you where you've given away your power. It reveals where you've placed your happiness entirely in someone else's hands, control. And it shows you that the love you've been waiting for cannot come solely from outside. It must be nurtured inside you first. This is not just motivational fluff control. It's supported by decades of psychological research on attachment and self-worth. People who hold a strong sense of self are more likely to build lasting control, healthy relationships. When you feel whole, you don't crumble when someone pulls away, you stand steady, and that steadiness is magnetic control. So instead of chasing after answers from someone who has gone silent, turn that energy inward. Ask yourself the harder questions. What makes me feel alive when I am alone? Control. What dreams have I buried while waiting for someone else's attention? What kind of love do I truly want? And am I showing up as the person who can receive it? Control. These questions are not easy, but they are the ones that transform heartbreak into power. Right now, you have a choice. You can see his silence as an ending control, or you can see it as an invitation to rediscover yourself. You can spend your nights begging for crumbs of validation, control, or you can rise and build a life so beautiful that anyone who leaves will look back and realize what they lost. And here's the most beautiful part, control. When you stop trying to control how others feel about you, you unlock the freedom to be fully yourself. The right people will be drawn to that authenticity. Control. The wrong ones will fall away. Either way, you win. This is how you reclaim your power. And it all starts with seeing that his pullback is not your defeat, control. It is your awakening. The deepest shift begins when you stop asking how to get someone back and start asking how to get yourself back. Somewhere along the way, control, you may have forgotten your own worth trading pieces of yourself for the hope of being chosen. But your value does not depend on who stays or who goes, control. It is not earned through someone's approval, it is inherent. The moment you realize that everything changes, confidence is not loud or boastful, control. It's a quiet knowing that you are enough exactly as you are. That kind of self-worth radiates beyond words, and it is the foundation of all lasting love, control. Human attraction is deeply connected to perceived value, and value begins with how you see yourself. When you treat yourself with care, control, when you set boundaries that protect your peace, when you build a life that excites you, you naturally draw others toward you. Studies in psychology confirm this, control. People are instinctively drawn to those who carry themselves with self-respect and purpose. It's not about pretending to be perfect. Control, it's about embracing your imperfections with grace and still knowing you are worthy of love. Control. The people who matter most will see your light without you having to convince them. Right now, you may feel tempted to plead, to chase, control, to do anything to reignite his attention. That urge comes from fear, not love. Fear tells you that your happiness depends on his return, control. Love tells you that your happiness begins with you. When you stand in your own worth, you send a powerful message. You are not an option waiting to be picked, control. You are a whole person choosing who gets access to your heart. That shift in energy is magnetic. It's the difference between desperation and dignity, control, between settling for crumbs and expecting a feast. The strongest relationships are built when two complete people come together, control. Not when one person abandons themselves to be loved. You don't have to prove your value, you have to live it. That means nurturing your body, your mind, and your dreams, control. It means spending time with people who lift you higher. It means saying no to situations that diminish you, even if it feels scary. Every time you choose yourself, control, you strengthen the foundation of your life. And the truth is, the right partner doesn't want you to shrink, they want you to shine, control. Ask yourself what kind of life you want to create regardless of who is by your side. What passions have you ignored? What adventures have you postponed? Control. Your worth is not in waiting, it's in living fully. When you begin to move through the world with that kind of energy, you no longer fear being abandoned, control. You trust that the right people will find you, and those who walk away are making space for better love to arrive. That is the power of self-worth, control. It's not about being above anyone, it's about knowing that your heart is too precious to hand over to someone who can't see its value. When you embody that truth, control, you stop chasing and start attracting. And in that shift, everything begins to align. When emotions run high and fear takes hold, the natural impulse is to react, control. You want to fix it, to call, to explain, to do something that eases the ache inside your chest. But chasing after someone in panic only deepens the distance. Control. Love cannot breathe where there is desperation. The most powerful thing you can do in this moment is pause. Space is not your enemy, it is your ally. Control. Silence gives you room to hear your own thoughts, to separate what is real from what fear is inventing. It allows you to respond from strength instead of from a place of need. Control. This pause is not weakness. It is one of the strongest acts of self-control you will ever practice. Neuroscience shows that when we're triggered emotionally, control, our brains flood with stress hormones. If you act during that surge, you're not thinking clearly, you're trying to survive. But when you step back, breathe, control, and let the intensity settle, your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, comes back online. That's when wisdom replaces panic. Control. That's when you stop reacting and start choosing. And choice is where your true power lives. You are not here to beg for someone to see your worth. Control. You are here to reclaim your peace and your clarity. Pausing doesn't mean you give up. It means you rise above the cycle of chasing and retreating. Control. It gives you the chance to look at the situation with honest eyes. Is his absence revealing the truth about his priorities? Control. Or is it a temporary pullback driven by his own fears? You can't answer that while you're drowning in anxiety. Stillness creates perspective. Perspective creates power. Control. In that space, turn inward and tend to yourself. Notice what you feel without judgment. Let the sadness move through you, but don't let it control you. Control. Every deep breath you take, every moment you resist the urge to react, you grow stronger. You begin to remember that your value is not on trial here. His actions are his own. Control. Your response defines you. And there is nothing more attractive than a person who remains calm and centered when life shakes them. Control. You might fear that stepping back means losing him forever. But understand this: healthy love is not lost by giving space, it's strengthened by it. Control. If someone is meant to be in your life, they will be drawn closer when they feel the warmth of your calm rather than the heat of your panic. And if they don't return, control. That space will have given you the gift of clarity to move forward without regret. Either way, you win by choosing dignity over desperation. The pause is not empty control. It's sacred. It's where you gather your strength, where you remind yourself that you are a whole person, not a shadow chasing someone else's light. Control. By choosing stillness over chaos, you open the door to a deeper kind of love, the kind that starts within and radiates outward. And when you move from that place, control, you don't just hope for love, you embody it. That is where your power begins, and that is where the chase ends. Once the storm inside you begins to quiet, control, a new kind of clarity emerges. You start to see that your entire life cannot revolve around whether one person gives you attention or not. Control. This awakening is not meant to make you colder, it is meant to make you whole. Control. Love thrives most beautifully when it is shared between two people who each have a world beyond the relationship. Control. Your happiness should not hinge on a single door being open or closed, because you are surrounded by countless doors waiting for you to walk through. Control. When you cultivate your own passions, your own friendships, your own goals, you become unstoppable. There is a magnetic force in people who live fully. Control. When you invest in yourself, you ignite a spark that no rejection can dim. Control. Research in positive psychology shows that those who have a strong sense of purpose experience deeper joy and attract healthier relationships. Control. This is not about pretending you don't care. It's about learning to care more about the life you are building than about chasing someone who may or may not choose you. Control. It's about shifting from waiting to creating. Control. The energy you pour into wondering why someone pulled back can instead be poured into building a life so rich that love becomes an addition, not a lifeline. Control. Ask yourself what dreams you have placed on hold while you waited for someone else to validate you. Have you been ignoring your talents, neglecting your body? Control. Silencing your voice? The pain you feel can be fuel to reclaim those parts of yourself. Start with one small step toward a passion you abandoned. Control. Call the friend you've been too distracted to see. Take that class you've been putting off. Move your body not to impress anyone, but to feel alive. Control. Each of these actions sends a powerful message to your subconscious. I am worthy of joy with or without anyone else's approval. As you do this, something remarkable happens. Control. Your sense of self grows, and with it, your confidence and peace. You stop chasing because you are too busy thriving. That energy is magnetic control. People can feel it without you saying a word. When you live fully, you naturally draw toward you those who want to be part of your world, not because you beg them to stay control, but because they are inspired by the fire you carry. And those who cannot meet you there will fall away, making space for those who can. You were never meant to live small, control, waiting for someone to notice you. You were meant to expand, to create, to love yourself so deeply that others feel that love radiate. Control. Building your life outside of him is not the end of love, it's the foundation for the best love of all. Because the moment you stop hanging your worth on anyone else, control, you open yourself to love that is based on choice, not need. And when love is a choice freely made, it is stronger, steadier, and more enduring than anything built on fear, control. This is the path to freedom, and it begins with you choosing yourself today. As you begin to build a life that fills you from within, control, something profound shifts in the way you carry yourself. There is a quiet strength that emerges when you know your worth and live in alignment with it. Control, you no longer feel the need to chase because you have discovered a more powerful force, the pull of authenticity. Control, people are drawn to those who are comfortable in their own skin, who radiate an inner calm that says, I know who I am and I am enough. This is not arrogance, control. It is magnetic confidence. It comes from no longer grasping for approval and instead allowing love to flow naturally. Control, one of the most powerful tools you have in this journey is the energy you project without saying a single words, when rooted in dignity rather than punishment. Control creates space for others to feel your absence and reflect on your presence. Psychology calls this the principle of contrast control. When something of value is no longer constantly available, its worth becomes clearer. This doesn't mean playing games or manipulating control. It means holding your center and allowing curiosity and respect to rise on their own. Your calm distance can speak louder than any desperate plea ever could. In this space, control, you rediscover yourself as whole. You shift from asking, how can I make him stay, to asking, controlled, who do I want to be in this world? That inner focus creates a glow that no amount of chasing can replicate. The truth is control. Love thrives not when we cling, but when we inspire. Inspiration happens when someone sees you fully alive, not when they see you bending yourself to fit their attention. Control. If he returns, it should be because he values you, not because you convinced him to. And if he doesn't, you will already be standing on a foundation too strong to crumble. Control. This is also where you reclaim the mystery of your own life. Too often we give away all of ourselves at once, leaving no room for someone to be curious. Control. When you pour energy back into yourself, into your passions and growth, you naturally become more intriguing because you are living a story worth being part of. Control. The Zeigarnik effect, a well-documented psychological phenomenon, shows that people are drawn to what feels unfinished and unknown. Control. Your life is not meant to be an open book written for someone else's validation. It is meant to be a masterpiece you author with intention. So allow yourself to be still. Control. Let your actions speak through the life you are building, not by withholding affection out of fear. Control, but by holding yourself with such unwavering love that anyone who crosses your path feels it. That is the kind of energy that draws people in without chasing. Control. That is the kind of presence that commands respect and desire. And the beauty of this truth is that it works regardless of whether he comes back. Control. Because the end goal is not just to be wanted, it is to become a person who feels whole and radiant, no matter who chooses to walk beside you. Control. This is the silent confidence that pulls love instead of chasing it, and it begins with your willingness to step fully into your own light. Control. When you begin to embody this quiet power, you unlock a deeper truth about connection. Real love is not fueled by fear of loss. Control. It is nurtured by mutual respect and genuine emotional safety. A man does not stay because you convince him to. He stays when he feels inspired, not controlled. Control. When he feels at peace, not pressured. This is why chasing fails and authenticity wins. People thrive where they feel free. Control. And love grows where both people are seen and valued as they are. Your role is not to perform to keep someone's attention. Control. But to live with such honesty and presence that anyone who shares your life feels honored to be there. Control. Emotional safety is one of the most attractive qualities in any relationship. It's the sense that you do not have to earn love with endless effort, and neither does he. Control. It's the space where vulnerability is met with understanding, not judgment. When you stand strong in yourself, you become a sanctuary rather than a storm. Control. That doesn't mean you suppress your feelings, it means you express them with clarity instead of chaos. A calm heart can have hard conversations without fear. It can say, Control. I want connection, but I will not abandon myself to get it. This level of strength draws people closer because it communicates that you are whole, not needy. Control. That you invite love rather than demand it. Psychology consistently shows that relationships last longer and feel richer when both people contribute equally to the connection. Control. That balance cannot exist if one person is doing all the chasing. You were not created to be the only source of effort. Love is a dance, not a tug of war. Control. When you create space and hold your boundaries with grace, you give him the chance to step forward on his own. If he chooses not to, control. That reveals more about his readiness for a meaningful bond than about your worth. And that knowledge, while painful at first, is a gift. Control. It saves you from pouring yourself out for someone who cannot meet you with the same depth. Control. Your strength lies in your willingness to honor yourself enough to let things unfold without manipulation. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful. Control. You are actively choosing the energy you allow into your life. Control. You are declaring that you would rather walk alone for a season than compromise your dignity for temporary validation. And in doing so, you invite a love that feels steady. Control, not fragile, expansive, not conditional. When you focus on being a safe, strong, and authentic presence, you naturally begin to see relationships differently. Control. They stop being about chasing or being chased. They become about two people walking toward each other with open hands and open hearts. Control. You become less interested in forcing outcomes and more interested in creating a life so aligned that the right people fit into it effortlessly. Control. That shift is where lasting love is born. It is where the need to control dissolves and where genuine connection thrives. By choosing to embody this truth, control, you turn pain into wisdom and longing into power, and you step into relationships as the full, radiant person you were always meant to be. Control. There comes a moment when you stop asking why someone stepped back and start asking what you truly want your heart to experience. Control. This is where your power expands beyond the fear of being abandoned. You realize that love is not meant to feel like a test you must constantly pass. Control. It is meant to feel like a partnership where you can rest and grow, where there is space for joy as well as struggle, where your soul feels seen. When you embrace this truth, control, you no longer settle for crumbs of attention. You begin to align yourself with a love that matches your depth, not just your longing. This alignment starts with honesty. Control. You cannot attract what you are afraid to ask for. Too many people silence their needs out of fear that expressing them will drive someone away. Control. But a connection that crumbles under the weight of your truth was never strong enough to hold you. Strength and love comes when you honor your own voice. Control. When you can calmly say what matters to you without begging or demanding, you send a signal that your heart is value, and value attracts control. Authenticity is magnetic because it is rare. Most people chase approval, few dare to stand firm in who they are. As you practice this, you will notice a shift inside yourself. Control. The anxiety that once consumed you begins to loosen its grip. You no longer wake up wondering how to win someone over. You wake up wondering how to live fully today. Control. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop compromising your soul for temporary comfort. The need to control fades because you understand a powerful truth. Control. What is meant for you will choose you when you stand as your truest self. And if someone does not control, you trust that the space they leave will be filled with something better aligned with your worth. This perspective does not grow overnight. Control. It is nurtured in moments when you choose courage over fear. It is built every time you pause instead of chasing. Control. Every time you focus on your growth instead of obsessing over their distance. Every time you dare to believe you are enough regardless of who stays. Control. The more you reinforce this belief, the more unshakable you become. That inner security radiates outward. It transforms how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you love. Control. And people feel it. They feel the difference between someone desperate to be chosen and someone who already knows they are worthy. This is where attraction becomes effortless. Control, you no longer manipulate or plead, you inspire. You no longer fear the silence, use it as space to thrive. Control. The right person will see you in your fullness and choose to move toward you freely without you having to prove your worth. And if they do not, you will still stand tall. Control. Because you have built a love for yourself so strong that no absence can destroy it. That is the kind of power that turns heartbreak into transformation. Control. That is the kind of strength that changes not just your relationships, but your entire life. Control. The most powerful transformation happens when you finally decide that your life is too precious to be lived on hold. Control. You stop bargaining with yourself about how much love you are allowed to receive. You stop shrinking to fit someone else's comfort level. Instead, control, you rise into the fullness of who you were meant to be. This is not about being cold or detached. It is about being fiercely alive. When you claim that space, control, you send an unshakable message to yourself and the world. You are done settling for anything less than what honors your heart. Control. Healing begins when you stop making excuses for someone else's inability to show up. It is tempting to rationalize their distance. Control. To believe if you wait long enough or try hard enough, things will go back to how they were. But clinging to what used to be only traps you in pain. Control. Love cannot thrive where you are begging for the bare minimum. Your heart deserves reciprocity. Your time deserves to be cherished. Control. Your life deserves someone who meets you with equal passion and effort. When you believe this at your core, you naturally attract relationships that reflect it. Control. This is not wishful thinking, it is psychological truth. People treat you in alignment with the standards you consistently uphold. If you allow patterns of neglect to continue, control, they will. If you reclaim your boundaries and stand firm in your worth, those who cannot honor it will fall away, and those who can will rise to meet you. Control. This shift is not about controlling others. It is about controlling what you accept into your life. Your love is valuable, and when you start acting like it, control, the world responds. There is a deep freedom in knowing you do not need to chase anyone to keep them. The right person will walk with you willingly. Control, because they see your heart and want to protect it, not exploit it. The wrong person will drift no matter what you do, and allowing that is not failure, it is wisdom. Control, letting go of what hurts makes room for what heals. Your task is not to grip tighter, control, but to open your hands and trust that life has more for you than constant uncertainty and pain. As you embrace this, you begin to feel lighter. Control. You stop looking back with regret and start looking forward with hope. You find peace in your own company. You invest in your dreams, your health, your growth. Control. And in that process, you become radiant. The love you once sought from others starts blooming within you, and that is the kind of love that never leaves. Control. It draws people in because it is authentic and abundant, not desperate or scarce. You deserve a love that is steady, not conditional. You deserve a love that celebrates you. Control, not tolerates you. And that begins with you refusing to betray yourself ever again. When you decide that you will no longer run after what walks away, control, you step into a life where love meets you without force. That decision changes everything because you finally understand that your worth was never up for debate. Control, it was always yours to claim. When you finally own your worth without hesitation, control, you stop living in fear of someone's absence and start living in reverence for your own presence. This shift is where real transformation takes root. Control. You no longer build your life around who might leave. You build it around what makes you alive. Love becomes an addition to your happiness, not the foundation of it. Control. This is the point where you reclaim your voice, your dreams, and your power. And when you do, everything about the way you love begins to evolve. Control. Lasting attraction is born from mutual growth and emotional connection, not from a cycle of chasing and retreating. Human beings are wired to crave novelty and respect. Control. Relationships thrive when there is space for individuality and shared purpose. When you cultivate your own passions and invite someone to join you in a life that excites you, control, you create a connection that is alive and expanding. But when your entire identity revolves around keeping someone close, that connection suffocates. Control. You were never meant to dim your light to keep someone comfortable. You were meant to burn brightly and walk with those who can handle your flame. Control. The science of love shows that it thrives on consistent effort and emotional attunement. That means it cannot be one-sided. Control. The person meant for you will not only show up in words, but in actions that align with care and commitment. And you will do the same because love, at its best, is mutual. Control. It does not ask you to abandon yourself. It asks you to bring your whole self to the table. When you understand this, control, you stop fighting for a version of love that leaves you empty and start creating a love that fills you both. Control. To prevent the pain of someone pulling away from breaking you in the future, you must strengthen your foundation now. Build your life on values, passions, control, and boundaries that stand whether anyone else is there or not. Know what you need and communicate it with grace, not fear. Control. Protect your energy as fiercely as you protect your heart. This isn't about walls, it's about wisdom. Control. It's about making sure you never settle for a relationship that feels like walking on glass, constantly afraid of losing what should be safe. When you live this way, control, you not only attract healthier love, you also cultivate resilience. You understand that someone leaving cannot destroy you because you are not fragile, you are whole. Control. Your self-worth doesn't collapse when you face rejection. It deepens because you know your value is not defined by anyone's choice but your own. Control. This is where freedom lies. This is where you rise above fear and step fully into the person you were always meant to become. Control. The pain that brought you here can become the power that propels you forward. Every tear, every moment of doubt, control can be transformed into a declaration that you are worthy of a love that honors you. And the most beautiful part is that it starts with you choosing yourself, not just once, control, but every day. When you stand in that truth, you no longer chase love, you become love. And when you become love, everything else aligns exactly as it should. Control. The moment you choose to embody love from within, you shift the entire way you relate to the world. Instead of anxiously grasping for validation, control, you begin radiating an energy that draws everything aligned with you closer. This is the kind of presence that cannot be faked. Control. It is born from doing the deep work of knowing yourself, honoring your boundaries, and refusing to betray your own heart for temporary affection. When you live in this space, control, you stop fearing loss because you have found something far more powerful than someone's approval, the unshakable truth that you are already whole. Control. Fear will whisper that you need to do more, give more, prove more to be loved. But fear is a liar. Love is not earned through self-abandonment. Control. It is nurture authenticity and respect. The connections that last are the ones built on freedom, not control, on mutual devotion, not one-sided effort. Control. This is why the chase never leads to lasting joy. Anything built on desperation will crumble under its own weight. But what is built on truth, on self-respect, control, on the courage to be fully yourself will stand the test of time. And if it doesn't stand, it means something even greater is waiting for you. Control. This mindset is not just empowering, it is protective. When you know your worth, you can recognize when someone's actions no longer match their words. Control. You stop making excuses for neglect and start honoring your own needs without apology. This does not make you hard, it makes you free. Control. The love you deserve will never require you to abandon yourself. It will never ask you to dim your light to keep someone else comfortable. Control. The love you deserve will celebrate your strength and your softness, your independence, and your desire for connection. Control. And you can only call that love in when you have claimed it for yourself first. Living this way also transforms how you handle pain. Instead of letting heartbreak define you, control, you let it refine you. Every hurt becomes a lesson, every disappointment a redirection towards something more aligned. You start to see that life is not happening to you, control. It is happening for you. Every closed door, every person who pulled away has shaped you into someone wiser, stronger, control, and more capable of receiving the kind of love that doesn't run when things get real. This is the gift hidden in your pain, the treasure waiting beneath the ache. Control. And the most powerful realization of all is that you have always had this strength inside you. You didn't need someone to complete you. You needed to remember yourself. Control. That remembrance is what makes you magnetic. It makes you resilient. It allows you to love deeply without losing yourself and to walk away when love no longer feels safe. Control. When you embody that you stop chasing what was never meant to be held and open yourself fully to what was always meant to find you. Your heart becomes a place of abundance, control, not lack. And in that place, love flows toward you effortlessly because you have finally aligned with your truest, most powerful self, control. When you begin to live from this deep alignment with yourself, everything about your energy changes. You move through the world with a calm certainty, control, no longer begging for attention, but attracting it naturally because you exude a quiet confidence that can't be ignored. This is not arrogance, it is self respect embodied, control. When you respect yourself, you stop entertaining dynamics that drain you. You stop justifying someone else's absence as your fault, control. You see clearly that love is not about clinging, but about choosing, and two people can only truly choose each other when both are free and whole, control. This is where real emotional power begins to flourish. When you know your worth, you create space for relationships that align with your highest good, control. You no longer settle for crumbs when you were meant to feast on the fullness of love and connection. The man who stops chasing you has given you a gift, control. Even if it feels painful in the moment, he has revealed the truth. Either he was never aligned with your path or he needed space to rise to meet you, control. Both outcomes benefit you because your value has never depended on his pursuit. It has always existed within you, control. Every moment you spend nurturing your own life is an investment in your future happiness. Pour into your passions, strengthen your friendships, care for your body and mind, control. Build a vision that excites you beyond the presence or absence of any one person. This is not about distraction, it is about expansion, control. The more you grow into the fullest version of yourself, the less you fear rejection, control. You understand that anyone who cannot walk beside you in this growth is simply making room for someone who can. That is not loss, that is alignment. Deep down, control. You already know you were not born to live small. Your soul craves meaning, love, adventure, and purpose. None of that disappears because someone pulls away. In fact, control. Moments like these are often the catalyst for transformation. They push you to examine what you have been tolerating, where you have been shrinking, control, and how you can step boldly into a life that reflects your worth. When you choose this path, you stop asking, why doesn't he want me? And start asking, control, do I truly want a love that asks me to betray myself? The answer to that question holds the key to your liberation. The truth is, control. You deserve someone who doesn't just chase you at the start, but chooses you consistently. Someone who sees your strength and doesn't run from it, control. Someone who wants to build, grow, and create a love that feels safe and expansive. But before you can find that person, control, you must become the kind of person who knows you are worthy of it. That shift starts inside you, control. It starts the moment you decide you will no longer define your worth by who stays or who leaves. It begins when you honor yourself so deeply that love becomes a choice, control, not a chase. And when you live this truth, you radiate a power that draws the right love near and allows the wrong love to fall away without breaking you, control. The moment you claim that inner knowing, you begin to see how much of your life has been spent waiting for someone else to grant you permission to feel valuable, control. You recognize how many times you've ignored your own needs just to keep the peace, how many times you've silenced your voice out of fear of being left, control. This realization may feel heavy at first, but it is not meant to break you. It is meant to wake you, control. Because the same energy you've poured outward trying to keep someone's attention is the same energy you can now pour inward to create a life so magnetic, so full, control. That love becomes an addition, not a necessity. This is where the true transformation begins. No one can take away your worth. It was there before anyone noticed you, control, and it will remain long after they stop. But you have to be willing to stand in that truth even when it feels uncomfortable. This means setting standards and holding them, control. It means being willing to walk away from situations that confuse you rather than begging for clarity from people who withhold it. It means choosing peace over chaos, control. Even when your heart craves what is familiar, the chase might feel intoxicating, but peace is where love can actually grow, control. You cannot be fully seen while you are constantly running after someone else. You can only be seen when you stand still in your truth, control. There is a deep psychological power in detaching your identity from someone else's approval. when you stop making your happiness dependent on whether someone stays. Control, you reclaim control over your life. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what is right for me? That subtle shift is life changing. Control. It lifts the weight of self-doubt and opens the door to a higher standard of living. It calls you to rise into the person you were always meant to be: strong, grounded, control, and free. And freedom is magnetic. When you embody it, the right people are drawn to you, not because you chase them, but because your presence calls them forward. Control. Every time you choose yourself, you build a deeper trust with your own heart. That trust becomes the foundation for every future relationship you create. Control. You will no longer accept inconsistent love because you will know you deserve steady love. Control. You will no longer settle for someone's potential because you will only align with their actions. And most importantly, you will no longer be afraid of being alone. Control. Because you will have discovered the richness and beauty of your own company. Solitude will no longer feel like emptiness. It will feel like strength. Control. This is the path to preventing future heartbreaks of the same kind, not by controlling others, not by trying to predict their actions. Control. But by becoming so deeply anchored in your own worth that you never again confuse attention with love. When you live this way, you don't have to chase. Control. You don't have to beg. You don't have to convince anyone of your value. You simply become, and what aligns with you will always find you. Control. This is the freedom that allows you to love fully and fearlessly because your heart is no longer held hostage by someone else's choices. It belongs to you. Control. And that is where true love begins. When you finally grasp that your worth is constant, you begin to approach love from a place of abundance instead of fear. Control. You stop clinging to what slips away because you understand that love cannot be forced or earned through desperation. Control. It can only flourish where there is mutual respect and willingness. This awareness gives you an undeniable strength, the kind that radiates from the inside out. Control. It shows up in how you walk into a room, how you speak about yourself, and how you decide what you will and will not accept. Control. That kind of strength is magnetic, not because it pleases everyone, but because it filters out what was never meant for you. Control. There is a quiet power in letting go of the need to be chosen. When you release that grip, you free yourself from the endless cycle of self, blame, and anxiety. Control. You no longer ask, what can I do to make them stay? Instead, you ask, does this love honor me? Does it expand me? Control. Does it bring out the best in both of us? If the answer is no, then walking away is no longer a loss, but an act of courage. This is how you reclaim your emotional freedom. Control. This is how you prevent yourself from shrinking in future relationships because you've learned that love should never cost you your self-respect. Control. The psychological shift that happens when you embrace this mindset is profound. Control. Studies on self-determination show that people thrive when they feel autonomous and aligned with their values. When you stop chasing someone who has pulled away. Control, you are exercising that autonomy. You are declaring that your life is not a stage for someone else's approval, but a path you actively choose to walk with integrity. Control, that decision rewires how you see yourself. Instead of feeling powerless, you begin to feel grounded and capable. Instead of fearing abandonment. Control, you trust that what is meant for you will not require constant pursuit. This doesn't mean you become closed off or bitter. Quite the opposite. When you love yourself deeply. Control, you love others more authentically. You show up to relationships without hidden agendas, without fear-based control. You love because you want to control, not because you have to prove you're worthy. That shift changes the energy you bring into every connection. People sense when you are whole. Control, when your love is rooted in freedom rather than fear. It inspires respect. It invites healthy love to grow. Control. And it creates a standard that protects you from the pain of chasing someone who does not want to stay. Every time you choose yourself. Control, you plant seeds for a life that reflects your true value. You set a tone for how others treat you. You send a message to your own subconscious that says, I am enough. Control, I am deserving. I will not beg for love because I already embody it. That message is powerful beyond measure. It is the foundation of emotional resilience. Control. It is the armor that keeps you steady even when someone walks away. And most importantly, it is the light that attracts people who see you as you are. control, not as someone they need to fix or save. This is the kind of love that lasts because it begins with you, and what begins with you can never be taken away, control. When you embody this level of self respect, you stop living in reaction to someone else's actions and start leading your life from a place of deep intention, control. You no longer let their silence dictate your worth, their withdrawal define your value, or their absence destroy your peace. Instead, you learn to create meaning from within, control, to nourish your soul with the kind of love that cannot be taken away because it is sourced from your own heart. This is where true empowerment begins, control. It's the moment you realize that losing someone's attention is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your transformation, control. Every time you choose your own dignity over desperation, you strengthen your emotional core. You become anchored, rooted in the unshakable truth that you are already whole, control. When you stand in that truth, you attract people who want to meet you there, not because you need them to complete you, but because you are already complete, control. That shift removes fear from love. It frees you to give and receive with openness rather than clinging. And paradoxically, control. This is when love becomes most magnetic, not when you chase, but when you radiate, people feel drawn to authenticity and self-assuredness because it signals stability, control, and stability feels safe. Psychology tells us that human beings are wired for connection, but connection thrives only when there is mutuality, control. If you are constantly bending yourself to fit into someone else's life while neglecting your own, the connection becomes unbalanced, control. It cannot grow because it is built on fear, not freedom. This is why stepping back when someone stops chasing you is not just about protecting your heart, control. It's about preserving the possibility of real love. It's about giving space for clarity for both you and them to see what truly matters. And if they return, control. It should be to stand beside you, not to have you behind them begging to be seen. When you hold your boundaries and honor your own needs, control. You send a signal to the world that you take yourself seriously, and the world responds in kind. Opportunities begin to open, not only in love, but in every area of your life, control. You start to see that your value is not limited to romantic attention. It touches your work, your friendships, your dreams. You stop waiting for permission to shine, control. You stop putting your life on hold, hoping someone will turn around and notice you. Instead, you become the one noticing yourself, investing in your growth, control, nurturing your passions, living fully. This shift is not always easy. It takes courage to walk away from what feels familiar, even if it hurts, control. But every step you take toward your own wholeness is a step away from fear. It's a declaration that you will no longer measure your worth by who stays or who leaves, control. And that declaration changes everything. It builds unbreakable confidence. It sparks a quiet joy that no one can steal, control. It transforms your heartbreak into strength and your longing into purpose. When you live from that place, you no longer worry about being chased or abandoned, control, because you know you are always enough and enough is unstoppable.